Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. From which part of the world you are joining? Welcome to our Fireside chat here at TechDemocracy Zoom. We will give a couple of minutes more to make sure that everybody is in, we are in line, we have all our panelists in, and we have definitely some great set of the questions which we are going to discuss around identity. So just give a minute to me. Okay. What we'll do, we'll start now as the people will be joining. Thanks everyone for joining this fireside chat. My name is Sushil Madhukar and I'm the moderator here. I'm part of TechDemocracy. I am Chief Principal for the Customer Success Program. And I have almost, I will say that 40 man years of the identity experience in the panel. And I would love all our panelists to introduce themselves. Today we have full panel belongs to the financial, healthcare, as well as the services industry. We will start with Yash.
Hello, everyone. This is Yash Sachar. I'm leading the digital identity program here at Toronto Stock Exchange. I've been in the identity space for over 15 years, and I'm very excited to be part of this chat. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Yash. Happy to have you. Tony.
Hi, everyone. Tony Nawrocki here. Thank you for taking the time today to join this fireside chat. We do appreciate it. I head the identity services here at TechDemocracy. I've been in the IAM space now for about 15 years, a little over. Been in the technology industry for much longer than that. I hate to say how long. Throughout my career, I've been hands-on a lot of it before getting into the roles that I'm in now with leadership. I've done everything from development work to the architecture work on many of the solutions that are out there today, the leading solutions. Even today in the role I play here as a leader that manages a lot of the different practices, I'm still very involved in the day-to-day on the pre-sales and even on the development side of things. So I like to stay very up to date on these products, and that's how I kind of do it, is by staying involved. And again, here at TechDemocracy, we approach all of our clients as very customer-centric. Again, always working with them to understand their needs, and again, hoping to drive best solutions to our clients and what's needed for their requirements. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Your experience will definitely help what you are seeing from the different client and the organizational verticals. Hey, Sushant, would you like to introduce?
Hi, Sushil. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. I have close to 18 years of experience in IAM. Very fortunate to have worked 360 degrees around the IAM space in all facets of identity and access management, all the way from engineering to strategy to leadership. In my current role, I work with Ascension, and I take care of the identity governance engineering part of everything Ascension. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. So we know that identity security is an ocean now, and everybody from what vertical they belong, what organization they belong, almost all the CISOs see identity security as their perimeter for any security roadmap. And a lot of things within identity, which either you talk about IGA, PAM, SIAM, directory services across the board. Probably this 60 minutes will be not enough to discuss around. So we have taken very specific area within identity governance, which we are going to discuss about. I was fortunate enough to receive so many questions from the different organizations based on to the use case they wanted to hear it. And the three topic which we are going to discuss today is non-human identity, which is very much a point of discussion across the organization, which we are talking about machine identity. Other topic which we will discuss today is non-employee risk, which is associated with identity. And the third topic which we'll look into is the role-based access control, how that is very relevant, how all organizations should look into. And we are going to see the perspective. Some of the things which I want to call out, the panelists belongs to different organizations, so their views are their personal. All those information which they are going to share, that is their personal information and experience which they have carried out from different organizations. That is not related to, or no information which is getting shared belongs to their organization. Having said that, we will start with machine identity and non-human identity. The request from all the attendees, if you have any questions ongoing, please share through the Q&A, and I will be taking those questions with the panelists so that they can answer and being very interactive rather than waiting till last. We will start with the machine identity and non-human identity. We know that the digital transformation has been multiplied in last few years. Multiple integration, machine-to-machine data transaction, APIs transformation, third-party integrations. One data says that last from few years, if you will look into the ratio between human identity versus non-human identity has grown 20:1. It means 20 machine identity and 1 human identity. Let's start with you, Sushant, because healthcare organizations are leading these issues. I will say that rather than solutions. If just to start with the basics, how do you differentiate between non-human identity to the human identity, right? And why this managing non-human identity has become more challenging for the organization nowadays?
Thank you. That's a great question, Sushil. Non-human identities, we often see them, we often call them NHIs, NHIDs. These are referenced more of like identities which are specific to systems, like machine identities. In the like we have been seeing service accounts forever, API tokens, and also to some extent IoT devices. All of these need to interact with each other with different systems and platforms, and so the differentiator between a non-human identity to a human identity is how they interact with these systems to in order to get data. Um, Unlike a human user, which authenticates to the system using strong mechanisms like multi-factor authentication as part of the validation process, that multi-factor authentication does not apply to non-human identities because they are like really machine identities. Systems are using those identities in order to interact with each other. So that's the basic difference between a non-human machine identity versus a human identity. The difference lies in how these identities interact with each other or interacts with different systems. You spoke about healthcare, hospitals in general. So this problem, or I would say the challenge of managing the NHIs is very significant with the hospitals or the healthcare in general, because hospitals, if you'll see in a network of hospitals, you'll see these hospitals have various systems which often are isolated within that hospital network, or they have to communicate with each other in like on an intra hospital basis. So how that data, that communication happens when the systems try to interact with each other, NHIs are in the center of it. One of the prominent problems I have seen with the management of NHIs, with the growth of how cloud adoption has taken place and has literally overwhelmed all the businesses, not just healthcare in general, the sprawl of these identities have multiplied enormously, as you rightly said in the beginning of your session. Uh, Maintaining and having that inventory of these NHIs, that's proving to be a nightmare for any and every organization. So I think discovery holds a very critical position in order to first identify what is needed to be managed. How we manage that is the second leg of the problem. Is the puzzle still to be solved? We can talk in length about it. But I think
Sure.
the first aspect is discovery.
Okay. Now, well articulated. Yes. How do you see from financial organization perspective or in general, based on your experience, these challenges and differentiation the organization should look into?
No, I think Sushant covered it pretty well. It's a great question. And just to add to what Sushant already mentioned, on top of the discovery, one of the many challenges we find managing these non-human identities is definitely know what you have in the environment, because if you don't know, you cannot protect. It's a big part in every organization. So it's a big question. Your CISO comes to you and say, okay, tell me how many NHIs we have in the environment. And you start looking at each other because there are not very well established tools either in the organization or in the market. There are segregated set of tools which you probably have to use to really identify from a different aspects of NHIs. Either it's a token, it's a API key, it's a service account, an ADL, that whatever that may look like, right? So identifying them is definitely on top of it. And then once you identify them, then how do you make sure that they exist with the least privilege? They are there to do the right job, and they're not overly excessive permission. In other words, it's really the life cycle management of the non-human identity. Well, in the past 5, 10 years or longer, a lot of companies, a lot of products, vendors have focused really heavily on how the human identities lifecycle has been very well defined with all the new IGA tools in the market. The lifecycle management for non-human identities is kind of left behind because we had to focus first on humans, which is definitely for the high risk because of the attack vectors and other things. But I think it's a high time we also look at how the lifecycle management is going to happen with the non-human identities, um, and apply whatever principles you might could, the least privilege, just in time, just to say the least. And that there are a lot more things we can do, but knowing what you have in environment, who owns them, their life cycle when they are not needed, getting rid of it, access certification, all these are part of it.
Oh, awesome. No, we have been seeing, right, having proper control to the human identity and wherever all those OEMs, rather than calling out the name, whatever the technologies are, they have been traditionally focused to managing the human identity, I'm sure. And we have already seen the buzz that a lot of organization from the OEM side, they have started building and looking for the solutions for machine identity per se, and things are available in market and for the organization to explore it. But Tony, how I know we have already established authentication mechanism for the human identity per se, but what are the different way you have been seeing dealing with the organization for the authentication, different authentication method for the NHI? And if you need to address those into particularly IGA solutions perspective, what is your view on it?
Yeah, I'll go into that. I just wanted to touch back on that, the top topic we were just on, and what I'm kind of seeing across the partners that we're working with today around NHIs and the struggles we see there. This problem has been around forever, and for a long, long time, we just kind of put this off to the side. It came in as orphans. We sent it off to somebody to try to assign owners and try to do cleanup. And years ago, there weren't really good mature tools around it. We would do certain things here and there to try to alleviate it. But the main problem is all these accounts have been created out there in a very typically a quick fashion. Someone requested it, someone created it, no real approvals around it. The access was just granted to it and kind of forgotten. So they're all over these applications. There's no naming convention. They're not centralized. So coming to the last year or two, they become high priority because we've all kind of figured out these are a good vector for bad actors to get a hold of these accounts. And because of how the authentication is managed for some of these, where they're not in a PAM system or not rotating passwords, once you would get one of these, they're a good vector into your company because you can use these for a while and not be noticed. So there's been this whole push now on developing tools until be able to better, consolidate these and create a central container of them. But again, it's been an ongoing problem that has not really been addressed efficiently, and that's what we're starting to see in the last year or two. Is all the different vendors out there are starting to come up with tools to manage that, to be able to assign owners to it, to do access reviews, do some life cycle management. It's always been a struggle of how do I turn one of these accounts off? No one ever knows what they're attached to. They're afraid they're going to turn off a production system. All those things are finally in some of these solutions being addressed. So I just wanted to touch a little bit about that and what we're seeing there. When it comes to the authentication, again, that's one of the shortcomings to these accounts is there's typically no multi-factor for these. A lot of times these accounts are being created with either certs in them or tokens, whatever, and they're static. They're not restricted. They're not getting updated any time. So again, if a bad actor gets into one of these, you have a problem. One of the solutions around that is get all of these accounts into a PAM solution who can rotate that and then update those into the application itself. A little more work there. But again, a lot of people with their PAM solutions up to now haven't been as focused on the service accounts. They've been more focused on the human accounts that use elevated accounts and getting those into their PAM solution versus taking on all of their service accounts, which again, they should really be taken at the same level as a privileged account because most of these accounts do contain elevated access. And again, they should be treated that way. And again, we're not seeing a lot of that. So, within the identity solutions themselves, say the IGA solutions particularly, there's not a whole lot being done around the management of the passwords. Again, you can integrate them into a CyberArk or a Delinea or something that can rotate them. But the solutions themselves haven't been as focused on that. They've been more focused on developing capability around being able to um, uh, bring all these accounts in to be able to build rules and things and use the existing connectors to do it, and then segregate them into different identity cubes, let's call it, that you can lump some of these up under and then assign an owner, and then go into your certification campaigns. What is your life cycle policies? That's where the tools today that I'm seeing what they're maturing in them are really handling.
Awesome. No, thanks, Tony. This is really helpful. I mean, we know that NHI and machine identities are evolving, but until unless we have a full-fledged solution, how the organizations are looking into how they are taking care of those solutions, how they are utilizing the product, that is key takeaway. That's a goal of this discussion to share that. We have been seeing that cyber attacks, if you will look. They are targeting the machine identity or non-human identity. And the primary reason is the privileged access and lack of traditional control. And we already have a question from our attendee that resonate this issue. And this is from Naveen. Thank you for sharing your question here. And the question is, what is the best approach to enforcing least privilege for non-human identities, especially those tied to critical system or CI/CD pipeline? I will just keep it open for anyone from panelists if you want to take this.
Yeah, I can start it off. So one of the things which I've noticed in the past when it comes to non-human identities and and how we can enforce least privilege is really starts from the very get-go, secure by design. we have to see whatever product or vendor or solution we are developing or implementing, what that solution requires to perform with the minimum set of credentials. Also, many vendors have done with POC with or any sort of testing and demos. The first thing they usually ask is, for example, in a Windows environment, it's a POC, a non-prod environment or test environment. Let's just use domain admin account, and that'll just get us done with this POC. I always say this is a bad approach because when you're doing a demo, you use the highest available credential in your environment, and that will get you through the POC. But when the time comes for implementation, then these vendors usually don't really know what is the least set of privileges they need for this application or for this system to work. So starting from the very get-go, enforcing the least amount of credentials, privileges needed to have that functionality done, and only apply those privileges to these accounts. Also leverage just-in-time access wherever you can. That also helps in many cases to have no credential available if there is no need to it. Many cloud providers now have the capability to spin off credentials or privileges just in time, so that there are no standing privileges to allow that risk to remain at a lower side.
Oh,
And
no,
if I
thanks,
may,
Yash.
if I
Sushant,
may
yeah, go
add,
ahead.
yeah, if I may
Mm-hmm.
add a little bit to what Yash said, all good points, Yash. I think the short and the sweet answer to the question is a combination. Um, there is no single silver bullet to this problem. It has to be a combination of governance, which obviously we spoke about discovery, having an inventory, how we effectively monitor, automation, which something Yash again alluded on to, uh, how we can ephemerally pass credentials onto the systems which need machine identities or NHIs. And the third one is the security controls. How do we design our controls effectively enough that at any point of time, all these credentials we just spoke about, Tony spoke about, like auth tokens, API keys, certificates, how do we ensure that at any point of time, they don't go static or exposed? Because being static make them so vulnerable that an attacker can come in, can gain access, and then at their own sweet time, they can like cause havocs on the environment. So three things: governance, automation, and security controls.
Awesome. Hope this answer your question, Naveen. But before I will jump on to um, non-employee and third-party risk, uh, I just wanted to understand and from our panelists that if organizations are looking to have some solution mechanism towards the non-human identity to start with, it's not about talking about technology and what product they are going to use it, but what will be your some basic and but critical recommendation based on your exposure or experience, whatever you have been doing in your organization.
So,
Um,
um,
anyone? Yeah.
so as I said, my favorite is inventory and ownership. So organizations need to be on point to have a near real time, if not real time, a near real time inventory of all their NHIs. And then those NHIs tied back to the owners of those identities so that they can be regularly certified whenever an identity goes decommissioned. That identity can be effectively removed from the system. Then ensuring effective controls such as credential rotation. There are PAM tools which can effectively do credential rotations, enforce least privilege, design a model, design a zero trust model where everything which is being done through those NHIs is effectively monitored. They have least privileges just to perform their job, just to perform their the actions needed on those identities, and then continuous monitoring of whatever is being done. So strong auditing and logging capabilities, aided by AI and analytics, which can provide direct, meaningful insight into what those NHIs are doing. That's the way to go for me.
Okay. Yes, or Tony, you want to add
Yeah.
on?
I think Sushant covered it pretty well. I try not to use the word AI where I don't need to, because that is the buzzword, but definitely leverage whatever latest new capabilities are in the market around AI, and use them to your benefit. But otherwise, the pretty much covered all the main points: the centralized identity management, centralized management, also lifecycle management, and leverage the tools to monitor and control from um, from the management of these credentials in the long run, and just in time least privileges are part of all those controls.
Yeah, and I'll be quick because again, both of them covered most everything there. One of the things too, when you're going through and looking at all these accounts, make sure you're cleaning out duplicates. You'll find as you're going through a lot of these accounts, there's a lot of duplication out there that you can probably clean out. Also, make sure you have a strong approval process. I think it was Yash who pointed out that during, testing and development, we tend to give these developers God rights because, oh, we're only going to use it now. But somehow when you go into production, at that point, they say, oh, we tested it with this. And if we change it with this, we may have different effects. And somehow that gets moved into production. You got to really put your foot down on that and get the right access put together for them in development and let them work with that. Don't go down that bad practice. So again, get a strong request process in place with approvals that's followed. And make sure, again, you're following some kind of naming convention with these accounts too. That'll help you down the road if you have to find them and do a search. I mean, so many accounts we go into today, there's no way to distinguish what these accounts are versus a regular account. Come up with a naming convention, put them in different containers. Something like that is also a good thing to get in the habit of when building out new accounts.
Oh,
I
thank
think
you,
I
gentlemen.
think I think one call
Sorry,
out,
go ahead.
one
Yeah,
important
go
call
ahead.
out is productivity without compromising on the security. I think that's a mindset which needs to be developed as well. We spoke about technical things, the technical mindset, but that education and that organizational mindset of putting security first, I think that's also something which helps ease a lot of these issues and concerns, which later cause heartburns.
Awesome. We before we'll move, because now we have a very pointed question again related to the NHI. Many organizations struggle with orphaned account and privilege creep over time. What life cycle management strategy can help to mitigate these risks for NHI and third-party identity? Summary-wise, anyone can pick up one, and then we will go to the next round.
Yeah. I'll probably just add to a few comments. So the question is around uh, what can we do to make sure that the accounts are in our environment are being used regularly over time, and then they're not just sitting there stall. Is that right, Shishio?
It is related to the orphan accounts and the
Or for an
privilege.
account?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yes, have a very developed process around orphan account. I'm sure most of the organizations already have but similar programs for human identities, but again, they kind of lack this in a non-human identity. The periodic reviews does help at some capacity, because the really at the end of the day, the technical owner of those identities, whatever that NHI is going to assure in a quicker fashion that these are still needed, as long as they know what those are with the really good descriptions, and they know where they are being used, because otherwise for them it's just a generic account or a generic credential which has no meaning to them. So having them review them those periodically, and also making sure that you also have some form of, I know in some cases we did this for some of the NHIs which were hard to track where they're being used or if they're still being used, and the owners or the people who developed these left the organization. See if we can find a way for with their last logons, or a way to make sure that they're still being actively used from a technical controls. That could also help.
Awesome. I will just move to the next round where we are talking about non-employee risk, how we need to manage, and then we'll come back onto the questions. We have few more questions related, and we will look into the Q&A sessions. So talking about non-employee, and again, not to call out very specific breaches, but we have been seeing in last 1.5 years, whatever the breach you see, it somewhere you will have that relation to this non-employee related activity or risk or third party. What are the basic risks we are seeing into? If we will start with you, Yash, or Tony, if you can just take it this question that.
Sure.
If we,
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get us started on
yeah,
this.
yeah. How you see this non-employee access management becoming a key issue, and organization must be addressing this. It's definitely not like your workforce identity access management for the employee, which you are dealing day in, day out. Because it's not about the risk which you are owning in your organization, but you are taking a lot of risk because you are working with many vendors, many third party every day, and you cannot assess every risk, right? And every day, because they have some changes and that generate the risk. How do you see from the different organization we are dealing with, and what kind of the risk they are taking up, and what are the solutions at very high level we should look into?
Okay, and I'll try to keep this short, but
Yep.
these kind of accounts are similar in many ways to your non-human accounts, as in they're typically within these companies. They're not centralized. They typically are not in the authoritative source. HR doesn't want to manage them. So they're just kind of accounts that are created out there, scattered all over the network. Normally we see them, maybe if the client is doing well, they'll keep them in a certain container with an AD, and or they'll keep them on a spreadsheet. But again, it's kind of the Wild West with these accounts. And they're typically created very quickly. There's a contractor coming on, I need this right now, they need this access, very little review, and the account is created. Many times there's not an owner assigned to it or the sponsor. The accounts are set to never expire. So that's why a lot of companies get into trouble with these accounts, is if you don't have them centralized, there's no life cycle management around these. And when these folks leave, the accounts stay active. So, from a terms of risk, that's where the risk comes in, is you have a lot of vendors out there with accounts that may never get turned off if they're not doing best practices around that. So now what we're seeing with more and more solutions is, again, they're building into their solutions a repository where you can centralize all of these accounts, similar to what we're saying to do with NHIs. You want to do the same thing with the non-employees, is have a centralized repository where these folks live. And also where they're submitted with, sound approval processes around it, life cycle management, things like don't expire, always have a expiration on any accounts that are created when possible, but also within your life cycle management, say every 90 days, 60 days, if they're not renewed, they expired. Those are some of the things that I can kind of share with the team what we see with these accounts.
Yash and Sushant, right? I mean, the type of organization you are from, there are so many third party or non-employee who are part of your network. How do you see the evolving risk, and what are the mechanism or some remediation around that, which not, again, you don't have to call out how is your organization doing, but what is the experience you will have or you want to share with our attendees?
At least I can say I can 100% resonate to the problems which Tony just explained, especially in the healthcare side. The staffing needs for healthcare, hospitals in general, is very dynamic. So we have a lot of traveling nurses who work in one market, and then within few days they would have to move on to the other market. So the needs for their access change very dynamically, right? And so it's both a challenge from the security point of view, which Tony explained, but also from productivity point of view, which is again, somehow we as identity governance team, as identity governance people are somehow directly responsible to make them productive day one, right? So how do we ensure that their previous access is removed and their new access is established for the new market? It continues to be a great challenge for us. And then the residual risk which gets carried if their previous accesses are not dealt properly, if they are not removed effectively, that residual risk is something uh, which basically hurts organizations during audits or during cyber events or attacks which happen. So a really big problem to be solved.
Thank you, Sushant, for the insight. Yes, do you want to add anything onto
Yeah,
it?
just to quickly, I'll add all valid points. One of the things which the way we have seen in the market, the managing risk for third parties, a similar approach in the organizations they take is assume breach for those third party accounts, because while the any account can be assume breach and you apply the zero trust model from many controls, these are prone to more being open in from the couple of breaches in the past couple of years. So we have seen the third party accounts or the non-human IDs. The part where I would say we have seen applying a little more aggressive controls into network zoning and dropping these external users into a different set of networks, so they don't get at the same level of access as the employee from the day one when they join the organization. They are very segregated, apply the very least a level of access they need to do their job, having expiry dates set and having an internal owner who is going to be attesting these, applying dormant account policy where after certain days, if these accounts are not being used, somebody's getting notified so they can be cleaned up periodically, even though the expiration is longer. But yeah, there are a couple of controls for in combination which you use to make sure the risk is lowered, if not 100% mitigated. Once these people have an account, they can log into your environment, ecosystem. DLP controls is a nightmare. If you give them access to anything, assume they are being taken away. So, giving them the least access they need and monitoring these accounts over time, I think is one of the ways to go.
Awesome. Yeah, we have been seeing, right, while talking to a lot of organizations that they have the need of non-employee risk. They see the risk. It is always better to analyze those risks and create the use case, right? What use case is a need for you, right? It may be not across the board. There are definitely now OEMs or solutions provider from the product side who are having very specific solution around it, as well as the process. You must have a very robust process how you manage your employee access, how you manage your non-employee access. Like we discussed, non-human identity. Again, if you don't have the right process in place and you don't adhere with it, irrespective of what technology and automation you are using, that is not going to help out you. So thank you. Thank you, our panelists, for providing very detail, even in summary, that how non-employee access management is becoming a nightmare, because we will be seeing, and we are seeing already, that so much of the breaches or the attack or cyber attack are getting exploited through the non-employee access. The third segment, considering the time, is just touch upon onto the roles within identity. Once we have that identity solution, the first thing we look into is how we are going to define and put the role across the employees. Role-based access control has been the name across the board, but whenever we talk to the organization, we still see the problem where we talk about the business role versus IT roles. There is no mapping. Even if you have the IGA products into the system, you have your automated HR system, whatever the base technology, we use it. But if you don't have, again, that role mining done, you don't know how many roles are there, how that role are mapped. that those technology are not going to help you, right? So you need to make sure that in-house you have that right role in place. Again, to give the very broad perspective, Tony, what do you see and what is your thought about building RBAC program for the clients? Because we have been doing this, right, for many clients and helping through that. Can you just give some snippet view to our attendees that how that RBAC is critical, how it's going to help a lot, and how the program should be built?
So yeah, this is a really good topic because bringing this into your environment and implementing it properly gains you a lot of benefits. It gains you a lot of benefits around getting to the zero trust model, making sure that people only have the required access that they need. And it also gains you efficiencies around your certification campaigns. Again, typically when you do a certification campaign, you're not going to review what's in the role itself. Typically, you'll just display that and say, hey, if there's something wrong in there, you got to go back and fix the role. Then your reviewers are only going to review what's actually outside of that was requested, and that tends to be a shorter list, and they tend to. I guess you can say they will be more accurate with that. We know in companies that don't have roles in place, and they have to go through and review all the access that's out there, they tend to rubber stamp that because there's just too much to do there. It's too daunting. Where if you can give them smaller snippets that they only have to look at, that tends to work out better. Building a good role program, again, is when someone goes into this, they got to go into it with the understanding that this is a big task. It's typically we see people successful who are more mature in their IAM programs being successful with these kind of programs. And that's really the key to it, is going into it, making sure you're putting processes in place. You're working with HR. HR is a big part of this because, again, they need to make sure as they're bringing people on board, they're putting them in the proper job coach type job titles and not just creating new ones. We do a lot of cleanup for clients who get this wrong and they end up into a model of one role per person because HR has created a new job title for every person who's come in. And that's what they were basing their criteria on. So it's putting checks in like that with HR, making sure they're part of this to understand what their play is in building this program out. And then the care and feeding of that. How are you going forward? Are you certifying those roles? Again, this is a program. It doesn't just get done once. It's a living, breathing kind of thing that you have to continue to maintain. So again, are you looking over time, making sure you're certifying those roles? The access is still good. The other big thing I can tell people that I try to tell end customers is less is more in this space. Again, you want to build your role program with the least number of roles you can to be able to achieve what you need. It's kind of the 80-20 rule. What's in that role should be able to fulfill 80% of what that group needs. The rest can be requested. So again, behind that, you also need to make sure you have a good request process for the additional access. Don't try to make the roles fill everything that everybody needs, because again, you'll get into that 1-to-1 ratio, which then that becomes unmanageable within your role program.
Yep.
I think I probably hit most everything there, Sushil.
Yeah, Sushant, I know we have been seeing the large organization like yours. There are 4,000 roles, but only hundreds are active, right? You will have like 50 users or more than that associated with, or maybe there will be like 50% role where you have one user or two user associated with. What is your thought regarding building RBAC program, right, where you have all those stakeholders involved, and how it is going to help, again, your experience around it, how it's going to help to optimize the more efficiency efforts and as well as definitely the risk?
Yeah. I'll touch upon the problem first, from the perspective of a large organization. Bringing people together on the same page, on the same platform to achieve a single objective, that is tough. That's difficult, right? Everyone has their day jobs. Just the education part takes a lot of time. I have often seen in my experience RBAC programs becoming management nightmares because they are never ending. So what I feel, and this is entirely my personal perspective into the problem, is often organizations fail to set that clear objective. Organizations often try to boil the entire ocean rather than setting those critical goals on what can be realistically automated and what portion of the work would still be manual, would be done through ServiceNow or any other ticketing system, right? That's where I see a lot of organizations do struggle. Uh, to me, role-based access is for any mature organization who are planning on implementing a role-based access model, it's one step forward in standardizing their access models, right? No more guesswork. You know that you have defined role definitions. Whoever comes in the organization, they get these set of roles. This is how their access would be provisioned. And that's how you augment your security controls, your access reviews, and basically tying all of that back to your effective identity governance model. So those are my 2 cents on this topic, Sushil.
Yes, do you want to add on before we will summarize and go to the Q&A?
Yeah, just again, very quickly, I'll add from my experience what I've seen in the role-based access. Tony and Sushant covered most of it, but what I have also noticed, it's not one size fits all kind of a problem for role-based access. There is no one model which is gonna be rubber stamp and send it to the organization and gonna say, okay, here's your model, follow it, and it's gonna work. No, it's not gonna work. Understanding the organization's critical needs, the business model, what their challenges are with their employees and risk. I think it's where you have to spend a little more time beforehand before jumping into solutioning this role-based access for them, because every organization is different, every organization is unique, and within the same organizations, there are going to be a lot of departments which are very high-paced environments where there are a lot of people coming and going in a short time. But the same organization, there are going to be areas where there are people working for more than 10, 15 years, and then they don't even know what they really need this person access for, because the person had access over 10, 15 years. Now they move from one role to another, and then there's a nightmare. So I think spending on a little more time and understanding the organization requirements, working with the SMEs and industry leaders, either it's a company like TechDemocracy or any other organization which knows how they have worked in a wider ecosystem in the industry, and bringing their expertise and putting those recommendations together, and then while having a mutual agreement within the leadership of the organization that this is the model which we think is going to work. It may not work 100%, but that's the mindset where everybody has to be on the same page. Because if you try to push this onto any department within the organization, you're going to get a lot of pushback. So making them understand where the challenges are, how you're going to resolve them, maybe the birthright access is better for them to start with, and then getting into role based. Maybe attribute-based access is a little more better for people with the organization with a lot of people with the different geographies, right? And then the role-based access is, again, whatever. Start with the bare minimum, build in on top of it. Don't try to give them everything from day one, especially the privilege access. Keep that out of your roles, if possible, keeping them for your request management, and then building on top of it. And then, as also Tony mentioned, review your roles periodically, make sure they're actively used, and whatever is not used within the role, revoke it. If somebody's using a special access once a year, you don't need to have that access within your profile for the whole year. Request it for the 1 week time or 1 month time, and then you're done with it, or move it to PAM tools. And that would be my 2 cents.
Awesome. These are the response from all the dirty hands, right? Which you are already facing through. We have been dealing day in, day out. It looks very easy to talk about, oh, it's just a RBAC, but once you start dealing with it, then you see the real knobs, right? That where it's going, how complex it is, because it's not about identity team who is dealing with, but you have so many stakeholders whom you need to onboard it. Before summarizing it, I have few questions. I have many questions, but I want to have, and thank you everyone for participating actively and sharing the questions. Couple of questions I just want to throw it to our panelists, on whomsoever you want to respond, please. That is one from the role base. The question is, traditional role-based access control model struggle to scale with complex enterprise environment. How can organization modernize RBAC to support dynamic access needs without increasing security risk? Anyone who can take up and summarize the answer.
Yeah, I can only say quickly that, wherever there is a dynamic needs for access, you apply dynamic control, policy-based access, just-in-time access, access through your PAM tools if that is a critical. You don't need to give that person standard access if they don't need it. There are areas and policies and attributes which can be leveraged to apply that access in timely manner and within the special needs. So you don't need to have those standing privileges forever.
Okay. Anyone else want to add?
Yeah, no, Yash has the right response to that. Again, being able to, you definitely don't want to build that into your roles. Again, that should be requested. It should be dynamic. And again, things like that can be time boxed. So again, if it's really a privileged account or something that they're putting this on, or it's access that's privileged, again, you can time box that with most of the solutions. Only give it for a certain amount of time and then take that back. But yeah, those are the typical ways you're going to handle those kind of requests.
One more last question, which I will take it. Third-party access is major attack vector. How can organizations ensure secure and controlled access while maintaining operational efficiency for external user like vendor, contractors, and partners? I know we are just on top of anything.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Sushant.
my take on that question would be integrate with your IGA, have that access as much as possible managed through your centralized identity governance system. You need to know what you need. First of all, you need to have a visibility of what you can manage, right? You can only manage what you know. So try to integrate those non-employee access provisioning systems with your centralized IGA tool, IGA capability, and then access reviews. Performing effective access reviews is a way to go.
Yeah, and one more question, if anyone wants to call out the name. What system or software do you see as the leader in identity management to handle role-based access across multiple systems, which include applications or the services?
I think Yash said there is no one size fit all, right?
Yeah.
So so every tool or technology will have their own pros and cons. I don't see that I would be able to name one leader who can do everything. So that's a tough question. I'll pass it on.
Yeah, no, I'd say, within your business needs and whatever requirements you have for your organization, I think you have to look at that. Always do a review for multiple vendors, do a POC and see what covers the most of it. And sometimes it's not about that one product which is going to solve all the problems. It's also related to how much budgets you have. Sometimes if you're trying to solve a $1 million, $1,000 problem with a $1 million product, it's not gonna go very well with your organization. So see what risk are you trying to maintain, how much budget you have. There could be something as big as SailPoint, but there are also many other vendors who can solve those problems for the organizations.
Awesome. Thank you. I know we covered a lot, but still very little if we talk about identity security. I hope we will continue such discussions. picking some topics and talking about the real-time stories, right? Real-time use cases. And that is why we avoided a lot of slides talking about it and talking the mind and talking the experience. Thank you so much to all my panelists taking your time. I know it's not easy, and spending your lunch hours with us. And thanks to all my attendees here. You have the name of your panelist. You can reach out, you can connect to their LinkedIn, ask any question you have it, and get their experience through that. I will not be able to share their email ID or phone number here, but definitely you go through their LinkedIn. And believe me, they have tons of experience to share with you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time. And we are signing off from this fireside chat. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.